I went to a restaurant with my friends to try nachi. I always wanted to try it. It was very challenging. I was a little scared, not gonna lie, but 안녕하세요. 저는 우크라이나에서 온 나나라고 합니다. 반갑습니다. I came here 3 weeks ago. I traveled here maybe like 5 times, but this time is the first time when I came here for work. So I just got out from quarantine. I think I had a friend, she was into K-pop and she was into K-drama, so she showed me some songs and I was like, oh, it's pretty good. I listened to it and tried to see that, so that's how I got to know Korea first time. I actually got into K-pop when I came to Sweden, so I'm living in Sweden right now. I found some friends who were dancing to K-pop and I joined the dance group, and that's how I got into Korean K-pop mainly, I think. And that we like traveled to Korea together, and that's where I realized that, oh, I really like coming here, it's very nice here. First time was like 2 weeks, but not more than like 1 month. Not really. I know some people through dancing and I do have some Korean friends, but surprisingly foreigner friends that I have, or like Koreans who lived abroad. They are very good in Korean and they are basically half Koreans. We usually eat, go to cafe when we hang out together. Nothing special. Usually when we meet here, we go like to 노래방, walk around. I really like walking around and exploring some places in Korea, so I usually ask him, oh, can we go here and there? I really want to see like those areas, you know. So whenever we hang out with my friends here, we usually eat something Korean. My friends usually want to eat something else, like Western food, but I usually force them to eat Korean food with me. And sometimes we eat a lot, like twice a day together, yeah. Yeah, I think I do actually, because every time people ask me, oh, what did you eat? And when I describe it, they're like, oh, you didn't eat a lot, like you didn't eat rice. But for me, I think eating is probably not as a big deal. So I think there is sort of a culture, like food culture in Korea. Now the thing that in Sweden, we usually, when we greet each other, we say, how have you been, you know, what have you been up to? But in Korea, they actually ask, oh, did you eat something? And the first time I came here, I thought, oh yeah, I ate this and this and that. But then my Korean friends said, oh, you don't have to say like, what did you eat or not? Just the greeting, like, how are you? That was interesting for me. I did think, yeah, that we were actually setting up a date, you know, and we're gonna eat. I was like, oh, they want to eat with me, so sweet. But then I heard, oh, you didn't mean it actually. But after thinking of it, we do have similar expressions in Sweden and Ukraine as well. It's like, oh, see you later, we should like drink coffee sometime. But we don't actually mean it, so I do get the statement, yeah. When your parents called you, no dinner to you today. It's similar in my country too, actually. I think, oh, that's very interesting. I never thought about it. I think my parents, my mom and grandma, they always like, oh, you have to eat, it's very important to eat, have you eaten yet? Don't be like, stop dieting or something like that. So they think eating is very important. Or I think with the friends, like if you came late or something, they're like, oh, I will buy you food, like buy you coffee, something like that. I think Korean people do it a lot. And the reason why I think so is the portions in restaurants are huge. And rice coming along with the food. And for me, it's already a lot, so I don't usually eat rice because you get full on that. But my friends are like, oh, you don't eat rice? Like, you should eat that. I'm like, no, I'm so full. How can you eat so much? And Korean people always tell, oh, let's go to cafe and have dessert. I'm like, what dessert? We ate so much. I think restaurants in Korea, there are cheap and there are expensive ones. But what is different from Sweden is that you can actually find a very cheap option. So something surprising in Korea was that even though there are lots of variations of food and portions are huge, I was surprised that so many people here are skinny and they look very fit and healthy. Even though there are so many options, I think if I would live here for a long time, I would gain weight easily because I love food. And as I see, people here really love food as well. So that was very surprising. I think the reason why they are very like healthy and fit could be they usually walk maybe a lot, and there are many hills in Korea, so you always go like up and down. And there are still pretty healthy foods here, like in more traditional restaurants. So I suppose people here don't eat all those like unhealthy dishes that much, and they still do care about the health. And it's also very safe to walk at night, late in the evening here. So maybe that's one of the reasons you have so much time when you can walk. So I was very surprised seeing all those lines to the restaurants and cafes in Korea. What I heard from my friends is if you see a line, it means the place is very good and people like waiting to like just get food or like coffee over there. So something about that, oh, it's trendy and you can trust the place if you see the line, which was surprising to me because in Ukraine and Sweden, I think, if you see too many people go there, people usually tell them, oh, let's not go there. Like everybody's there, so maybe not a good place. That was very different. I think in Ukraine, we tend to eat a lot too, and every time you come to someone's place, it's a good manners to prepare a lot of food, and the more food you prepare, the more food there is on the table, the better it is. So many times my family, when we invite some guests and don't have much food on the table, they're like, oh no, it's such a shame, like we have to prepare more because it's like a culture. So I do think there is similar food culture in Ukraine too. I think the first time I had Korean food was not in Korea, and I think it was bibimbap. I really liked it actually. I don't remember particularly my impression, but I remember I kept like going to Korean restaurants, wanted to try something new. Yeah, I generally like Korean food a lot. So once I was in Korea with my friends, I always wanted to try like something new, something unique, and I went to a restaurant with my friends to try nachi. I always wanted to try it. It was very challenging and I just love challenges. I was a little scared, not gonna lie, but it was very good. I was surprised, so I tried it. It was very chewy and I love the texture, so I really loved it. So every time I tell my Korean friends like, oh, I love nachi, they're like, why would you eat that? I live with parents in Sweden, so I do cook. Sometimes I cook for the family or my brother, for myself. So I've tried cooking Korean food. I think it's a bit hard. Once I cooked kimchi jjigae, and it turned out pretty well, but most of the time, so like the tteokbokki or like 닭갈비, it could have been better. Still lots of room for improvement. My mom actually loved kimchi jjigae, but tteokbokki, she was like, I don't like it. I'm like, Mom, I think that's me who cooked it pretty bad. That's not itself. My mom actually really wants to visit Korea, so if not COVID, I think she would actually come to visit me. Today we talked about food culture and how Korean people love food and think it's important. 영상이 좋았다면 좋아요, 구독 눌러주세요. 감사합니다.